Hello, and welcome to the Mothers of All Crime. This is a podcast where we deep dive into mothers involved in infamous crimes and scandals. I'm Monica, and this is Krystal.
Welcome back to the Mothers of All Crime. Today we're talking about my new favorite documentary, Unknown Number, the high school catfish. How are we doing today, Krystal? You excited about this one?
I'm good. How are you? I know we were talking about this offline that this is probably one of the best presented documentaries I've seen in a long time because everybody's still alive, which is kind of cool. It's relevant to a lot of things that everyday people deal with. I think it touched on the evolution of technology, and then there were just so many suspicions. Yeah, they did a great job. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I really liked it, and it's obviously everybody was a buzz about it, and it went super viral, and it's been all over TikTok, and the reaction videos have been great. But it was a really compelling story, and I love the way they presented it. Sky Borgman does great documentaries,
Mhm.
and this is pretty recent; it just came out in August, so new topic for us, and
Yeah.
we basically start out talking about Lauren Licari is the main character, I guess, that we're talking about. When
Mhm.
the story starts out, she's 13 years old in 2020, just to give context. So it's Lauren's gonna be going to a Halloween party, essentially, and she's 13 and she has a boyfriend. His name is Owen, and they are cute little blonde kids. There's cute pictures of them together. It's kind of a sweet like middle school romance. One would think
They
that's
were in high
not a
school. Yeah.
they were in middle
14?
school. They were
Well,
13.
yeah, I guess it ended when they were in high school. You're right. Okay. I'll take it back.
Yeah. But like that's little. They're very young
Yeah.
when they meet. So Owen is like a sports star. Lauren is also a sports star. So they're very into sports together. They go to the same school. Their parents become very chummy and friends. And it seems especially like Lauren's mom, Kendra, and Owen's mom, Jill, spend a lot of time together at sporting events, at school events, socially. Um, During COVID, they actually were in a bubble together, whatever that means. So they definitely spent a lot of time together, almost like extended family. And the problem really starts when Lauren is going to a Halloween party and starts getting weird text messages, basically telling her not to go.
From an unknown number, too. And this
Yes,
is
very important.
a super small town, Michigan. Everybody kind of knows everybody. And I think that's important too because
Hmm.
in they even mention it in here during small towns, you really kind of get involved in everybody else's life because there's not a lot of other things to do. So you know everybody's business. It's hard to hide from anything. And so when something quote interesting happens or different, it becomes like the talk of the town. So getting a random number that you don't know, she kind of asked around her, like Owen doesn't know, Lauren doesn't know, their friends. Like the fact that nobody had this number was bizarre.
Yeah, definitely. They do mention that many times throughout the documentary how it is such a small town. There's two stoplights, there's two bars. It's an extremely small area. There's one high school. Everyone knows everyone, and the parents are very involved in after school activities and also really seem to know what's going on socially.
Yeah. So when this party that was a yearly thing, and these text messages started off kind of slow, like
Hmm.
6 a day. And for teenagers, getting 6 text messages in a day is not mind blowing. Like, you could send 6 texts in a minute if you want to. But
Mhm.
they kind of like, after the party went through a lull and then popped back up again, up to like 50 texts a day. And this was over a period of a year. And they started using low in the text message, which is like a nickname for her around family and close friends and people who know her. So she started
Mhm.
kind of trying to really like narrow down who it is. And one thing that I thought was very impressive for someone, particularly her age, was she actually picked up the phone and tried to call this random person because she wanted to address it. She wanted to deal with it. Like, no, who are you? Why are you doing this? And then they wouldn't pick up and then they would send a text
Mhm.
message instead. But I thought that was really remarkable for someone her age. She's described as like kind of shy, soft spoken. And to have the maturity to do that, I thought was very impressive.
Yeah, I was very impressed by Lauren throughout. I just felt like she was so strong in the face of something that was so awful and like I'm sure really marred her whole high school experience. And Owen is getting these texts too, but they seem to be not quite as bad, the ones that is getting. The ones to Lauren are getting aggressive. They're getting insulting. There's a lot of sexual content, threats,
Very vulgar, yeah.
very vulgar. Yeah. The phrasing is strange. The language is weird. It's a lot of attacks about Lauren's physical appearance and about how Owen deserves better, essentially. That Lauren is not putting out, that she's not giving head, all kinds of things like this, which to text a 13-year-old this is really, really crazy. Um, but they're very aggressive texts and they're getting more and more explicit and degrading. They're even encouraging self-harm and suicide for Lauren. And the person behind the unknown number is also claiming that they are in a romantic relationship with Owen.
Yeah, which obviously, when you're getting repeated information over and over and over again, it's going to cause friction. Um, they started fighting, and eventually they did end up breaking up. And I think
Mhm.
part of it was they were together for, they said, 2 years. And part of it, I really do think, was like, hey, if we give this person what they want, which is us not to be together, maybe it'll go away. That did not work. It kind of just then shifted to more self-harm and you should just get out of here altogether. You're terrible, blah, blah, blah. But like you said, it kind of Lauren was more being attacked and I think Owen was he was being somewhat attacked, but also like it was more of a sexual innuendo to it where
Mhm.
there was the connotations. But there were sprinkles of self-harm in there because his mom produced throughout the documentary, you see text messages from both sides being sent, being received. There were hundreds of pages of texts that they ended up producing to law enforcement. But
Mhm.
one of the responses that Owen eventually gets to is, "You make me think about self-harming or being suicidal." And so you got to think that there is probably some there in there. He also was getting some kind of self-harm stuff. We just didn't necessarily see it as much because of the disparity between the two.
Yes. I think also Owen felt like he was trapped, especially after breaking up with Lauren, which he initiated. He broke up with Lauren, and he basically said
Mhm.
it's because of the catfish, or I just like can't do this anymore. Um, but also after he broke up with her, he got a new girlfriend that lived in a different town, and that girl's mother started getting harassing text messages from an unknown
Yeah.
number.
Like, not like the town next door, like, what was it, like 2 hours away or something like
Yeah.
that? Like, it's
Mhm.
not like they could happen to just know this other parent. Like, not the girl's mother.
Right, exactly. But if you're Owen in that situation, it's like, well, I thought getting rid of Lauren was going to solve this problem, and it's not solved the problem. And so now what do I do? Is this going to be a problem in every relationship that I have?
Mm-hmm.
It would
Well,
that would be maddening.
yeah, and then you're just trying to like be a teenager, and being a teenage boy, all you think about is girls anyway. So that's gotta be
Mhm.
like really frustrating. But this investigation was peculiar in a lot of different ways. And the parents of Lauren and Owen, specifically the moms, like went feet first. They were in the school, they were asking the principal to do an investigation, the superintendent. They really wanted to figure out who were sending these messages. And all of a sudden, kids were being hauled in left and right, talking to law enforcement. The principal tried to do like a surveillance because there's cameras in schools now,
Mhm.
seeing like when a text message was sent, was anybody else on their phone? Which I liked the concept, but at the same time, find me a teenager who, if any second they can be on their phone, isn't. So like,
Exactly.
I
I thought
don't
that was kind of weird actually. Like, what, you're going to catch the one kid on their phone? No, they're all on their phone. So that doesn't
like, it
really
might
even help.
narrow it down. So like maybe like, hey, out of the 700 kids that are in this building, here's 100 of them that were on their phone the same time over 3 different text messages. Like, it could give them a starting point with that they could give to law enforcement, but that's my
I
only thought.
guess, but that seems like very exhaustive to figure that out. Like, that's a lot of
Yeah.
surveillance of these videos through. I mean, the messages were pretty incessant during school hours, so I guess maybe it wouldn't have been that hard when you're getting 50, 60 messages a day, but
Mhm.
it still doesn't really pan anything out. And they're
Yeah.
interviewing kids from the school, and the parents are complaining that nothing is happening, and it's not being figured out. And they're doing, you know a lot of digital investigation as well, gathering phone records, looking at IP addresses, looking into those apps that spoof numbers, and interviewing parents, school staff, and then the students. It seems like there's a couple of suspects amongst the students, throughout the documentary. One was,
Yeah,
oh,
and
sorry.
no, you're good. I was just gonna say, like, there was an interesting collection of them because you
Hmm.
had obviously in every school you have your cliques, right? And you have the cool popular kids, the cheerleaders, the sports, the quiet nerds. Like, it was kind of funny listening to the kids describe their groups versus like how we described them when we were
Hmm.
in that age. Like,
Sure.
and I don't know if it's just because obviously they had cameras on and they were doing it differently, but the like for the quiet kids, they're like, well, the quiet kids, could be smart. And you're like, you have one of these moments, you're like, yeah, okay. Well, there's also the nerd group. Like, it's funny that they only had these like 3 or 4 groups versus when at least where we were growing up, like there were 10 or 12. Like, it wasn't just these few categories.
Yeah, but I also, I guess, lived in a much like bigger town. And even though it wasn't a big town that I lived in, people were less involved with like their kids' lives, and I think that there was still more stuff going on. It seems like there was pretty much nothing going on at this school and with these kids except for this. Um, so I feel like it was small, which I think makes it even more clicky.
Mm. Yeah, but yeah, no, you're right. We had some front running suspects, and again, it was kind of all suspects that were presented by the parents.
Hmm.
It doesn't feel very developed. Like, it feels like when they were like, all right, who do you suspect? And they kind of rolled with it, which is fair. That is, ask what you think, but it definitely felt very selective at this point.
Yeah, it. I mean, it doesn't seem like the sheriffs at least were coming up with any of their own suspects, really. Or at least I didn't hear any that they mentioned. It does seem like it was coming from the families. So the two main people that get accused of this are Owen's cousin, Adriana, who I felt really bad for. She seemed so quiet and sweet, and that it seemed like school was already kind of rough for her prior to this happening, and it really did not improve things for her. Um, she So the reason that she had been accused essentially was there was a photo taken at Owen's family Christmas that ended up in the unknown number harassing text messages. And Owen's mother is like, well, who could possibly be so close to us that they have access to this stuff at our Christmas party, but they're also involved in the school. And there's one classmate that happened to also be at the Christmas party because it's Owen's cousin, Adriana. And so she's blamed for it. And there was also Chloe, who was kind of the polar opposite of Adriana in school. To me, she seemed more of like a popular bully. And that's night and day from Adriana.
Yeah, I think it's important to also mention that part of the reason Adriana got even considered in this whole thing is because the original one was Chloe. It was, who are some people who have some histories of things like this, but eventually when it started going on and they started interviewing Chloe and interviewing her parents and kind of looking into it, it was the text that from the unknown number changed. The text turned into too much about mentioning Chloe. Like they were sending pictures of Owen and Chloe. They were talking about her. Like it was too off. They started really being like, "Yep, it's me, it's Chloe," which if you actually are the person doing it, that's not real. Like you're not going to do that if you've been hiding yourself for a year and a half at this point. And that's
Yeah.
kind of when other person got introduced, and Adriana felt bullied by Chloe and her friends because they, like you said, they were kind of like the popular kids, and they kind of zoned in on. You're right, like she was the quiet girl. School was kind of hard, but also that is someone that also can fit the description of being a cyberbully, being someone who attacks from a different way, eventually
Mm-hmm.
could snap and become aggressive, violent, whatever the case is. And I think that was their kind of thought process of like, okay, she's doing this to frame her bully to get back and take down as many people as she can. And when you actually start talking, like you see Adriana on the interview, you do feel bad for her. Because she then all of a sudden gets text messages from an unknown number. And the poor thing is like, I'm seeing what my cousin's going through, and this other girl that I know of, I don't want to be next. Like, my life's hard
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah, you're totally right. I did put that in backwards order, and it is important for the context of how it got from Chloe to Adriana. And they it was getting very blatant, I guess, the stuff coming from Chloe, or supposedly Chloe. And there was one really interesting part I thought where Chloe was on vacation in Florida, and the IP address from the text messages was now coming from that same area of Florida. And I think at some point that was looked as very damning evidence for Chloe, but it, you know, why would Chloe incriminate herself to this degree? Why would she send pictures of herself and Owen? Why would she be talking about Chloe's score on a basketball game if it was really her and she'd taken such lengths to disguise her
Mhm.
identity? Like, why would she just mess that all up now? So none of it really, it doesn't make sense. And I think that, like a lot of these cases, we're trying to apply some logic to a very illogical
Yeah.
thing. But none of these are really working out. None of these suspects are really working out. And the FBI is really, really trying to connect the anonymous messages to an IP address, something that is hard evidence of who is doing this, where are the texts coming from. There must be a source. Even if there's spoofed numbers, it's the internet is traceable and everything is there forever. IP addresses are connected at some physical location. And so you could keep spoofing it, but there is a physical location that should be able to be traced back. And that's when our big twist comes in.
Yes. So there was one consistent number that kept popping up, and the FBI put their report together, handed it back to police, local police, and were like, the only consistency we found was for mom.
Kendra
Lauren's mom.
Licari, who is in the documentary. It's the
Who's
craziest thing.
spearheading the investigation to figure out her kid being harassed.
She complains throughout the documentary that the school and the police and other people were not taking this seriously enough, and that she's so worried.
And there was a group of people that were doing this. And I will say, like, in the text, all of a sudden, it was started very, like, singular spoken in the text. And then it turned into, like, there were we's thrown around in there. It didn't start that way. And it wasn't always that way. But every once in a while, you would see a we are gonna do, or we think this is funny, or something like that. So I thought that was bizarre, because you have one consistent thing over and over and over again being Kendra, yet using plural language randomly and not consistently. But yeah, mom.
Wow. And I definitely want to talk about the police coming to the house and talking about this. I just thought it was handled so bizarrely. So
Well,
we can set
the
the
body
scene.
cam footage was nice. Yeah, so they had body cam footage.
I do love body cam footage.
Local PD coming to the house to serve the search warrant to collect all of the digital devices, so cell phones, laptops, things of that nature. And Kendra pretty much said, I have one cell phone and one laptop. We can go inside and have a conversation.
Right.
And then they move inside. Lauren is home, but at that time they were pretty much like, she needs to stay in her room while we have a conversation.
Yeah. They're like, oh, we prefer she doesn't come in for this talk, which, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure if any of this makes sense of the way to relay this information. But regardless, they sit Kendra down and try to confront her with the evidence that points to her. And she does admit it, but in kind of a roundabout way and very vaguely, and never really gives an explanation for why she does it. She just implies that the first couple text messages were not from her, and the rest of them were from her, but that she really doesn't want anyone to know about it and doesn't want Lauren to know about it.
Yeah, that part I thought was hysterical. Like, yeah, shows you use sentiments that were, well, it didn't start with me. I fed off of it. It didn't start like that. And eventually Lauren comes out while they're talking to Kendra, and the police kind of share the status of the case with her. Because again, she's the one who's having to deal with this for the last 22 months. It's a long time, particularly in teenage world. That's a very, very long time. And she's had all kinds of other addiction, and the family themselves are having financial trouble. And as much as parents, I think, try to hide that from their children, when you're moving 3 or 4 times from eviction notices on the house, moving your stuff into storage, your kids know that there's trouble, which is going to give stress if they're aware of the stress or not. It could be underlying, but it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's sitting there hearing this information, and I don't think it's just from watching the video, it's not really processing it in her head because Kendra gets up, hugs her. It's it's as if she isn't the one who just did all of this. And Kendra is just trying to be like, oh, I love her, blah, blah, blah. And Lauren's just sitting there and you kind of she looks confused. Like the poor thing is just getting so much information by someone who's supposedly supposed to protect her.
The hugging, the hanging all over Lauren, it was very manipulative. It's like Lauren can't have a reaction because her mother is like coddling her, swaddling her, all over her in her space. Like there's no room for Lauren to have any kind of reaction. So she just sits there, and the police tell Lauren and Kendra that Lauren's father needs to come home and they need to talk to him, and he does, and they tell him, and they also tell him that Kendra does not have a job. And that seems to make a lot of things click for Dad.
And
Because
hasn't
he's like,
had a job.
hasn't had a job. The entire time Lauren's been being catfished, Kendra has been a full-time catfisher because she supposedly had 2 well-paying jobs in tech, IT, and it sounds like maybe she didn't even ever have one of those jobs, and the other one she got fired from. And she just straight up was not working
It's
and was
not super
pretending.
clear, yeah. And
Yeah.
again, how do you pretend that? But I guess she was in charge of all the family household like finances, so it's
Mm-hmm.
easier to hide that you aren't bringing in money if you're in charge of the finances. Because that was my
Sure.
first thought is like, how do you hide from your husband who you live with and share bills with that you aren't making any money? And eventually, and like you said, it kind of clicked for him because then it all kind of spiraled where, well, we did end up with an eviction notice on the house. You told me there were bills that were being paid, and then clearly they weren't. Like, and the poor man just started to spiral. Like, I felt really bad. And he actually was the one who told police that she has more than one cell phone
Yeah, that was
because
crucial.
she was like, nope, I only have the one phone and the laptop, and here they are. And then when police came back in, that his tone kind of changed. He's like, where's the other phone? Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to find it. Where is it? So she did, and eventually was like, oh, it's in the woods where I was standing, kind of hid it. And
Where she chucked it when the
like,
police walked up.
which shows me there was thought process. Like, it wasn't just
Yeah.
like I downloaded this app and couldn't stop. Like, I went out and found another phone and had 2 phones on me at all times to do this. That's a lot of effort and thought process.
Well, I believe he thought it was her work phone. So
No, I meant from her, like her
oh,
side.
from
Like,
her
she did all
you
this
just mean
effort.
it was so intentional. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but I
also
agree
her
for
checking
him.
the
Like, he
phone.
probably was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
she's working. That's what she's doing on her phone all day.
She's furiously working. Um it's so wild. I mean, after multiple evictions, like, stop letting her handle the finances. Like, this is not working out.
Right. Clearly there's an
But
issue.
I don't want to blame him for this because I do see how she is so manipulative and how she didn't
Oh, I
want him
don't.
to see.
Yeah, no, I don't blame him at all, actually. This, for the first time in a very long time in this podcast, I don't blame the man at all.
Yeah,
Like,
I actually really thought he handled this all pretty darn well considering.
yeah, he pretty much, like, once the police were like, "Hey, this is the information we have," he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna protect my kid. You're
Mhm.
gonna." He kicked her out of the house. He's like, "You're going to your parents." She's like, "Well, I don't want to go." He's like, "I don't really care." And he's like, "I called them. I didn't want to leave a message or text this. I told them they need to come in person. You're going with them." And Kendra had the audacity to go stand up, hug Lauren on the head, like around her head, and was like, I can't leave her.
Ugh.
Ma'am.
It's honestly
And
sickening. Sickening.
he was just like, I don't really care what you want right now. Why? He's like, you're
Yeah.
getting out of this house.
Well, he made a really, really good point where he was like, he's like, if you don't get out of here while the cops are still here, like one of us is going to end up killing each other. Basically, we're going to get into it if
Or
you
getting
don't leave.
physical, like violent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I will beat your ass, basically, is what he was trying not to say in front of the cops. He was like, but you probably want to leave while the cops are still here because I'm pretty mad. Which, I mean, I
Like the
cannot
torture
imagine.
that you watched your child go through for 2 years, reading these messages from what you believed was a stranger,
uh,
and then realizing it is your
Your
friend,
wife.
your wife, the mother of your children,
Ugh.
your housemate. Like, there's so many things, like the betray. Like, I don't
Yeah.
blame him at all.
No. And he really
However,
thought that Kendra was a good mom. Like he watched her raise
yes.
Lauren and he raised her with her and he thought that she was
Mhm.
great and that she was just like super involved and like obsessed with her. And what like a illusion to be shattered. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Sorry, what were you going to
Yeah.
say?
Although I was gonna say my only thing that we did skip over is there were multiple times where multiple people told Owen's mom, Lisa, I think, and nope,
Jill.
yeah, and Jill. Who's Lisa? Well, her
I don't
name's
know.
Lisa now. In my head. It's the Lisa haircut, really, is what it is. I think.
I could see that. I feel
Um.
like Jill and Lisa are similar also.
Well, either way, both kids' parents.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you just change their phone numbers? Like, get rid of the phone, get them new phones, get new phone numbers. The problem will solve themselves. And do now, retrospect, it would not have solved the problem. But
Right.
the fact that both of these parents looked at everyone who told them this, they were like, nope, I'm not going to do that. I want someone held accountable, and allowed their children to continue to be harassed, stalked, bullied. Like, the fact that they were like, no, I'm gonna like that part was baffling to me. Like, at that point, I feel like, yes, I would want answers with my hypothetical child.
Sure.
But my bigger concern would be the like safety and mental health of that child. Like, everyone has a breaking point, particularly hormonal teenagers. And you are risking this for your satisfaction of knowing who it was and, quote, brought to justice.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly understand why Lauren's mom didn't think changing the phone number would matter.
Yeah.
But Owen's family, I don't understand. Even Kendra though says at some point during the documentary that it would have made more sense to just take Lauren's phone away from her than
Mm-hmm.
to impersonate a catfisher for 2 years, which for sure, yeah. But if it was like a truly an anonymous person, like I guess the concern with getting them a new phone number, I mean, try it once at least. You know what I mean? Like that's what I didn't understand.
Right. Like, if it didn't work, then, like,
Then we need a new
you have a
plan.
bigger problem. Yeah, and you have a bigger
Yeah.
problem. But if it worked and it was like someone in some random country just trying to, like, I don't know, make chaos, then it would have fixed the problem. Like,
Mhm.
I just don't understand that
Yeah,
mentality.
I agree. And it's like they're 14. What does it even matter? This phone number, it's not like they've had this phone number for like I've had the same phone number forever. So I would be so bummed to change it. I still would though in this situation.
Right.
But it would be a bummer to change a phone number that I've had for like 20 years almost, but they've had it for what, a year, 2 years?
Yeah.
And the whole
I
time you've
think
been getting
Owen said
harassed.
something about, yes, Owen said something about, like, his mom took his phone away for a period so she could go through stuff and like read messages. And
Mhm.
he was like, I didn't want them to take it. I fought it because I'd only had it for a year. Like, like you're
Mm.
gonna be okay. Like you
I
can't.
don't
And you have a
I
small town.
know.
Get the phone numbers again. You see them in school. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I
who else
guess
are you talking to?
yeah, I really didn't understand that either. I would have at least tried to change the phone number like once or twice before completely giving up on that idea. It's the same with blocking it. Like they must have blocked the initial numbers. I know that they were creating spoof
Yeah.
Kendra, I'm saying they, like it's multiple unnamed catfishers, but just Kendra was creating like multiple spoof numbers because it wasn't always the same phone number. But I mean, you'd think that they would have blocked the first few. I feel like changing your phone number is the next
Yeah.
thing that you do after blocking someone.
Exactly. And yeah, and I think the other thing when it came to the parents of all of the other like kids that were being interviewed and accused, not necessarily even accused, like they interviewed other kids and things like that.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of pushback on letting people look at the phones. And like even Owen's phone, it took for the over a year for this to be happening, the FBI to do a search warrant, to do a dump on his phone. Like it wasn't like the initial thing. And I just remember like as a teenager, my mom would have taken my phone so damn quick and gone through it to be like, if you have if it's not you, you have nothing to hide. And would have like started like looking through it. Like the
Yeah.
fact listen, I'm all about protecting your kids, but at the same time, oh yeah, my mom would have been like, it's not you, give me your phone. I don't understand what the problem is. Like,
I can't even imagine like explaining the situation to my parents. Ugh. Just
like I know because we grew up when like the internet obviously started beforehand, but we kind of grew up when cyberbullying started and started to take
mhm.
life. And I remember there were periods when those spoofing apps became popular when I was in high school. And there
Mhm.
were people that were getting texts from random people, and it was from people they knew because you could do it through this app that you downloaded on your phone. And the same thing with like Formspring, if anybody remembers what that is like you can
Oh yeah.
anonymously put things up, and some of it was horrible stuff that you would show, and like you just had to take it. And I think it was a shift kind of starting with our generation of before, if you got bullied in school, you had a safe place. You could go home. You could escape it for a decent like half of your day. Now kids can't run away. Like if you're getting bullied online, you can't you can, but it's a lot harder to not go online, to not have a phone, to not
Sure.
live that way. And it's a tough thing to kind of deal with and also track because before if you're getting bullied in school, it's not a secret who's pushing you into a locker. Like versus these apps are very easy to make it seem like you're someone else. Hell, there's apps out there that you can make it seem like it's coming from someone's number that you know and then sends a fake one from their phone number. It's crazy what you can do now.
It's it's really true. It's really really true. And I think that cyberbullying, it's the more connected you are to your phone, like the more incessant it's going to be. And for teenagers, it's like such a vulnerable population, and especially like these like COVID and post COVID kids that were so reliant on all of their
Mhm.
technology and doing school at home. And I mean that's how you socialize, that's how you know people, and social media is so important. And we saw like little TikToks and stuff that Lauren had been making, and Kendra had been attacking her not even just through text, but she was also getting like stuff on social media, and it was all just her mother attacking her, but she didn't know that. So you would think that, oh, I don't fit in, my peers don't like me, there's someone who dislikes me this much, my boyfriend left me. Like it's it's a terrible situation that's happened. And I felt like Lauren, I mean, Owen felt trapped, but Lauren was even more trapped, like literally trapped.
Yeah. And so as we were kind of going, Kendra made a statement that I want your opinion on. She kind of went on a little rant about that everybody breaks the law. She's just the one that got caught.
Mm, mhm.
And
Where she
I really enjoyed her justification on it because she's like, well, there's people that drive while they're like intoxicated. Should they have done it?
Mhm.
No. But did they get caught? Like, I just did this and I'm just the one that got caught. And
Hmm.
I was a little surprised, but because she had her justifications were all over the place, but this was one of them. Uh, and
Sh she took, like,
what?
0 accountability for anything.
0. But, like, and we'll go through a couple of the different like, quote,
Sure.
justifications she said. But that was
Mhm.
that was the first one, and I think for me, the most astounding. And I just wanted your thoughts on, like, which
I I think if most people
approach.
drunk drove for 2 years, they would get caught. And if she had just sent, like, some terrible text
Oh, that's a
message to
good
her daughter, like,
point.
a few times, like, no one would have cared or known. And it only became illegal because it was so like, that's not illegal. You know what I mean? Like, you can text your kid shitty things.
A
I don't even
crazy
know
thing.
I actually don't even know, like, you could probably I don't think making a fake number and texting someone is illegal, you know what I mean? Like, you
No,
can do
no,
that,
it's
and
weird,
she has
but
every right to text Lauren. I mean, the sexual stuff that she was sending to Lauren and Owen, obviously, that's a whole other thing that we could talk about, but just by itself, like, I guess some of the texts, like, rose to the level of being, like, very threatening, but just texting her crazy shit about how she looks anorexic, that's not illegal. It became illegal because you were harassing her for years and her boyfriend and other people and other kids at the school and created this whole thing. Like, you created the crime. This is not a like, this is not a normal crime that people get charged with. And it was because it was so bad and so often. And so that's one reason that her drunk driving analogy is really bad. It's also just not comparable crime wise.
yeah, yeah. I like that you pointed out, like, if you did it consistently for 2 years, you probably would get caught. I think that's a good point.
Yeah. I I I think so. I mean, her justifications made no sense. I mean, the one with, like, it wasn't me in the beginning and I just took it over because I didn't want it to get ignored and I wanted there to be consequences for that original catfisher. I wanted to catch them. I thought that was her craziest excuse.
Yeah, I wasn't me, but I hoped if I made it worse, you'd look into it. Like, I'm sorry. There's absolutely 0 evidence anywhere that it's more than just her.
Yeah. It's definitely just her, but even if it wasn't just her, that is like, you saw that your daughter is so upset because she's getting these harassing texts that you sent her a lot of them. Like, the first 2 weren't
Right.
you, but the next 5,000 were you?
And then on top of it, she was like, "Well, I know my daughter." Quote, "So I know what to target her
Oh.
with." But then also when the interviewer was talking about, like, if she was ever concerned that her daughter actually would listen to her, because she was saying some very harmful things. And
Mhm.
her response to it was that she knew her daughter. She was never scared she'd actually hurt herself because she was having conversations with her during that time. Like, screw you. Like, everyone has a breaking point, particularly teenagers. And I don't care how close you are with your parent. Nobody, not one teenager is 100% truthful with their parents. And second, most teenagers don't even know how they're feeling until they're actively in the emotion.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's like, even if you know her, do you know her under this kind of extreme duress and harassment? Like, this is a new situation that she's in. So even if you know her, you don't know what this effect is gonna be, and anybody can get really triggered and
And
upset, and it's yeah.
and all hours of the day too. Like, these texts
Mhm.
were coming in 24/7 out 24/7. So you have a kid 1 o'clock in the morning by herself in her room getting a text telling her to hurt herself. You're not sitting next to her. You don't know how she's feeling. You don't know what she's going to do, and tired because she's not sleeping. She's exhausted. Like, there's so many
Yeah,
factors.
absolutely. I mean, yeah. It's I think that I mean, we can get into the motivations, but I think she was making the text really bad so that Lauren would come to her about it, and be like, "Oh, well, see, I know her
Mm-hmm.
so well that she's going to talk to me about this." And so she's sending these like horrific things to see how Lauren comes to her with it. And I think that like it was like a self-feeding thing where it's like, "See, I do know her. I knew she would come to me about this." It's like you're
Right.
creating the situation for her to be upset about. I thought
Yeah.
it was also
So,
really yeah.
yeah, no, I think it's just an astonishment. And then I think the last justification that was a big one was that she used during her statement when she was in court, uh, that she was suffering from resurfacing trauma, and that was part of her
Mm.
behavior.
Mhm. Right. Right.
Very
She said that she
convenient.
had been sexually assaulted when she was 17, and seeing Lauren grow up and get a boyfriend was like very triggering for her. And I don't know if that's true or not. I think Kendra has a complicated
And
relationship with the truth.
I agree. And also, what she said in the court that we saw, again, we didn't see the whole thing, but she just said trauma and abuse. Like, and then in the documentary is when she mentioned the specific incident that she, quote, was
Mhm.
referring to. And I think that's telling because why would you be more specific after the fact than something that could potentially have kept you out of prison?
Hmm. I don't
Or
know.
lowered your, like, she was going to prison, but like it could have potentially lowered her sentence because even the attorneys were like they definitely leaned on the harsher side of things. She ended up pleading guilty to 2 counts in March of 23 and serving 19 months in prison. Like,
Mhm.
but again, if you had the chance of serving less time in prison, why wouldn't you bring up all these super traumatic things then at sentencing?
So I don't know if maybe she said more things in court or to her lawyers or whatever, or if that was part of the plea anyway. But I think it's also just like pretty convenient, and I think she's had some time to think about it and come up with the best version of this story because I'm sure people do ask about it, and she probably does have to explain and justify this as much as she can often. So I think it's maybe a better story. It's still not great. It's still bad logic, obviously, but it's like, well, she did go through something really awful. Ugh. So maybe it's like maybe we'll blame her like 1% less or something. But I don't know if that's necessarily true or even related. Even if it was true, I don't know if she really necessarily connected that that was part of the problem. I think it's just a convenient thing to say
Yeah.
now.
Oh, 100%. I think we see that a lot after the fact. There's
Yeah,
always yet another excuse.
sure. Yeah.
But I think there's also that after effect kind of towards the end when they kind of zoned in on Kendra's behaviors towards Owen because so they offered two different explanations. They offered Munchausen's for her behavior and then that was from the superintendent. And then they offered that she like was obsessed with Owen, which was Owen's like his and his parents kind of opinion. Um
Mhm.
and it is interesting that these two options happened and very convenient. You start having all of these like examples of how she's obsessed with your child after the fact. Like you never thought any of these were weird before you found out that she was
Mm.
sending these. Like, you didn't find it was weird that she was going to his sports games before. You didn't find it was weird that she checked in on him before. Why is it weird now? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it
Yeah.
makes it weird, but like they were giving examples. Some of them, like her going to the football game or sports games after the kids broke up. Yes, that's weird. But you were also friends with the mom. You knew other people there. Like, you got to wonder, is like, was her daughter there and she drove her and then that's why she was there? Like, like it's on how you present things, right?
Sure. I mean, it Kendra, I think, presented as someone who's just like overly involved, but that's not necessarily like a bad, terrible thing. Um, and Lauren's an only child, and she's very athletic, and her boyfriend's very athletic, and I think that Owen's parents, who met and were dating since the 7th grade as well, actually, they maybe thought, oh well, it's possible that Lauren and Owen will go the distance, so maybe we should get like really involved with
Yeah.
the Licaris, and we could be all best friends, and have fun family events together. And I think that Kendra was a little bit of an outsider too, it seemed like, in the town. Like, her husband was from the area, but he wasn't part of like the in crowd necessarily. And Kendra was not from the area. And it's such a small town that people go way back, and she doesn't. So I think that they maybe just thought that she wanted friends and wanted community. And it's not that weird. But looking at it now, of course, it seems really weird. I thought that it seemed very weird that Kendra would make personalized gifts for Owen with like pictures of him and Lauren. She made him a phone case, like a blanket with pictures of Owen and Lauren on it. I think that's very bizarre. And I would think that was really creepy if I was his mom.
I think that's a regional thing though, because I know
Mm.
people who grew up not in like that same area, but that kind of geographical region. And they did the same thing with their high school. Like their parents would get them gifts of like them in their high school. Like they did full on photo shoots. They did holidays together at like 14. Like, I think part of it we have to remember is a regional thing where in these small towns, they do get together earlier. They do settle down earlier.
Mhm.
It's just because we grew up in the Northeast where it's like, you'll do it when you do, like, you get to it when you get to it kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
and
I guess
I
so.
think there's that aspect to it. But I do agree, like, and it's all like hindsight's 2020 when you have this woman, this grown woman making these statements, very vulgar statements about a teenage boy. Every little thing is gonna, what felt normal and regular then is now gonna feel weird. And I think that's what a lot of it is.
For sure. It's looking back on everything with this taint of what was really going on. And also all of the conversations that Owen's mom, Jill, was having with Kendra all the time, because they were leading the charge in the investigation. And I'm sure they were constantly talking about this. And just for her to think back on how crazy all of those conversations are, knowing that Kendra's behind it the whole time, it would just taint everything. Every football game, every baseball game that they sat together and chatted about this catfisher is it's completely different now.
Right.
Yeah. Ugh.
Well,
Yeah.
I think the last thing we should just mention before some final thoughts is, while, and this is where I do get a little worried about Lauren, is she talked to her mom the entire time she was in prison, twice a
Mhm.
week. She sent her emails. Lauren's mom is out, Miss Kendra, and they are not allowed to have contact. Like, they can't see each other ever since she's been out. But Lauren does like hold out hope that she can have a relationship with her mom. She doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily know if she could, quote, trust her, but she still wants to have that relationship. And I think that's concerning to me. I think her dad has stepped up and kind of working on making sure his daughter gets the help that she needs. And I don't think her dad would allow her to get that contact without certain protections and measures in
Mhm.
place. But again, she's getting older. She's going to turn 18, and then after that there's only so much dad can do. Uh and
Yeah.
if mom's capable of this at 13, 14, it worries me what she's capable of with a grown adult where there's less protection, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I mean, at the time of the documentary, Lauren was not 18 yet, but at the time of this recording, she is 18. So it would be interesting to know if and when she's going to start having significant contact with Kendra again and how that's going to go. And I hope that, Lauren's in a ton of therapy to help her kind of cope with this. And it's so tough because you want to, like, on one hand it's like, obviously, cut her off, never speak to her again. This is such a crazy betrayal and terrible abuse that was inflicted upon you by her. She's basically taken no accountability for it. She did go to prison, but I don't, at least for me, she's not demonstrated sufficient remorse, and there never is going to be a good explanation for why she did this. So to me, it doesn't seem possible that they could really have a normal functional relationship after this. But it's very hard to cut off a parent, and they did have a very close bond, even though it was built on a lot of lies and manipulation. For Lauren, I'm sure this is, and she says this is a gaping hole in her life. And I think if she's not involved with her at all, with Kendra at all, then it's going to be an unanswered question and also just another thing to grieve and lose. So I wouldn't be surprised if they had some contact.
Yeah. I hope as time goes on she gets some perspective. I
Mhm.
don't think anybody wants to lose their mom, and like particularly when you had a good childhood and you have so many good memories, and it's easy to kind of justify there's a lot of harm that others have gone through. Like when you put it into categories, I think a lot of people would be like, well, physical abuse is worse than cyber abuse.
Mhm.
And you can kind of talk your way out of it, but she deserves to live a healthy and happy life and not be having that fear of like, what can I tell my mom what I can't? And I hope she puts in protections that, or just ways to help her cope with therapy or support persons around, whatever the case is, to, if she's going to maintain that relationship, do it the best she can.
Yeah, definitely. I do want to talk about Kendra's motives and like what you think the reason for all of this was. If you have like a overriding theory. I know in the documentary they mentioned Munchausen by proxy, and that maybe
No,
this is some sort of internet version of that she was trying to
no.
create a situation for
I
to get attention.
so strongly disagree with Munchausen's. Mostly just because I don't think it had anything to do with her daughter. I think it had
Mm.
everything to do with her and getting some kind of like satisfaction. I think if we eventually, or she one day does some kind of interview, the more people you pull from her past, the more people you're going to see that this is consistent behavior, that she's done this with different people. They did bring her
Mhm.
cousin into the end of the documentary, and her cousin made an accusation that she suspects that even the last 10 years of their life that, with her husband, was a lie.
Mhm.
So I think with Munchausen, like you get fixated on a person that you're helping. I think if we dig into her, this is going to be a more narcissistic personality where
Mhm.
she will have a pattern of doing different kinds of things. Because I also think your justification of everyone breaks the law, I just got caught, would not have been one of your first things to say if you hadn't done things in the past that you didn't get caught for.
That's a good point. I also kind of lean narcissistic mostly. I think she was very jealous of Lauren. Um,
Yeah.
I I think also because I agree. I don't buy the Munchausen by proxy because for me and for my understanding of that situation is it's for attention primarily and for recognition of being a great caregiver. Like
Mhm.
there's motivations behind that that don't really apply in this case because it was done in secrecy and Kendra went to
She
such
didn't want
great
anyone to
lengths
know.
to not be associated with this. Like, so I mean, that's just not the case with any of the Munchausen by proxy things that I've seen, where they're more than happy to take all of the credit. This, I don't think she was doing it for attention. I think that she was doing it because she's jealous of Lauren, resents her, but also I think that she had a major sexual attraction to Owen. And I don't know if it really had anything to do with Owen specifically, but I think that also could come through the jealousy and the competitiveness. And as sad as it is, there are a lot of people that compete with their kids. And mothers and daughters can have
Mhm.
complex relationships where if Kendra, feels unfulfilled in her life or is so narcissistic that everything revolves around her, then Lauren excelling in any areas or getting things that Kendra perceives that she did not get, you could see how this how that could lead to this where Kendra is isolating Lauren, being super mean to her and causing her to lose a lot of the things that she was jealous of in the first place. I do think maybe though she also had an attraction to Owen.
Yeah. I am on board with the jealousy of the kid thing. I could see how we could get to attraction to Owen, but I also wonder like if I don't know because the attraction to Owen thing really brings in that other random girl, but I also think that that could have because it wasn't a lot. Like she didn't keep going with it. Like there were
Mhm.
2 or 3 texts. I think that was part of the facade. Uh I don't know if it really was Owen as much as the control, having control over his life, or having control
Mhm.
over the daughter's life. I mean, I could see how we could get to the attraction on Owen. I don't know if I'm sold fully on it.
So I don't think it really had anything to do with Owen specifically. Like I feel like everybody was acting like Owen was like like the best looking, the coolest guy ever. I didn't really get that vibe from him, but whatever. Um Kendra I think would have been infatuated with anybody that Lauren brought home. And that also
Yeah.
concerns me for the future if they do have a relationship. Like is she going to continue to be really inappropriate with and about your boyfriends, like even when you're an adult? Because that's kind
Right.
of the vibe I would get. More than it doesn't really have to do with Owen specifically. It's more of wanting to be better than her daughter and competing with her and trying to take what she has and look, I'm still young and hot and better than
Mhm.
her in every way, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if in a couple years we get another documentary.
Yeah. I mean, I think that they should make like a Hulu version or something too, because I liked the Netflix one, but they should do maybe like a longer, like multi-part thing. I mean, I would just love to know how Kendra filled all of her days while she was pretending to work. I think a lot of it, she was parked at the school, trying to use the IP address there, texting the kids while they were at school. So it looked like the texts were coming from the school. But even if you're sending 100 text messages a day, that's still not going to fill up your 8-hour workday and your commute and whatever else. So I feel like there's a lot of other, kind of to your point before, where it's like, oh, there's other things that she's probably just not gotten caught for. I feel like there was a lot of other things happening. Who
Yeah.
knows what Kendra was up to all day?
Yeah, we'll never know. Maybe, but probably not.
Probably not. You can't believe anything she says anyway.
Yeah. Well, those were my major ones. Do you have any final thoughts?
I feel like we covered it all.
Yeah, I'd agree. I just hope. No, my last thought is go, Dad, because I don't get to say that very much on this show. Go, Dad. Dad. He did a great job.
Yeah, I was happy to see them like hugging and fishing together or whatever at the end, and wearing their camo outfits and stuff together. Like, I thought it was nice to see that, because she needs a good normal parent for sure.
Yeah. So I think that would be my last thought.
I like that as a last thought. I'm gonna.
How often do we get to praise the men?
I know. I mean, it probably won't ever happen again, so we should take this opportunity. Go, Dad.
Yeah.
Leave that woman. Put her in prison, because honestly, what a monster. I don't think she got enough time. Also, that's my final thought.
She'll be back.
She'll be back in prison for sure. Good point. All right. Well, we're gonna pick up right back here next week with our next mother.
Have a good one.
Bye.